Hello everyone! In this video, we will create this reusable counter animation with framer motion and React. This type of animation can really enhance the storytelling of your website in cases if you need to show any numbers like total revenue, number of positive reviews, or finished projects. So, without further ado, let's get started. First things first, dry principles are important to us. So we'll create reusable functionality even for this simple animation. We'll build a reusable component called Animated Counter that will handle all the animation logic for us. So let's create a new file called animatedcounter.tsx. Make sure we place it inside the app folder. Now define the functional component Animated Counter, and it will receive a few props such as from number, to number, and optional animation options that you can use to replace the default animation settings. And since I'm using TypeScript, let's define the prop types. So as you see, we passed two numbers, from and to, and animation options, which is an optional with type keepFrame options. And our component will return a span element, which is a self-closing. But why it's self-closing? We will discuss it a bit later when we start building the animation logic. For our animation, we will use an imperative approach to write the animation logic. So we will need to attach a reference to our span element and perform the animation inside the useEffect hook. But since I'm in Next.js project, which uses React server components, I forgot to add useClient directive at the top of the component to enable JavaScript events and to use React hooks. Hit save. Now let's import the useRef hook and attach a ref to our span element. Now define the useLayoutEffect hook or use isomorphic layout effect hook if you're in server-side rendering environment. Actually, you can use a regular useEffect hook, but you might notice a slight layout shift during the first repaint because we don't pass any children to our span element. So I suggest you to use useLayoutEffect hook or use isomorphic layout effect hook for server-side rendering. Now let's define our element here, which equals to ref current value, and don't forget to pass ref to our dependencies array. And for TypeScript, first we check if there's no element, we just return. Now let's start to define the animation itself. So let's define controls variable, which equals to animate function from framer motion. This function can animate our numbers by passing from, to, and animation options. And let's define the duration, which equals to 1.5 seconds, and an easing function with isArg value. But if you want to pass your custom animation options with props, you can pass it here with the spread operator, and it will override the defaults. And actually, I forgot to set the initial value to our span element, which is a from value, and I will use a text content property with element.textContent equals to from, but we cannot assign a number to HTML elements. So let's convert it to string. Let's go back to animate function, and here with the onUpdate method, which accepts a value, we need to continuously set a new number while animating from number to number. So let's define element text content equals to value, which we need to convert to string. And let's import our component to our main page. Let's animate it from 0 to 100. Hit save. You have noticed those weird numbers on the screen because the animate function animates our numbers and actually makes it float, not integers. If I console log the value here, you will see what happens. Hit save. And here's what happens when animate function runs. You see that all the numbers are float. So let's use toFixIt method to make them integers. And we don't need the string method because toFixIt returns a string. Hit save again, refresh. I will zoom in a bit and hit refresh again. So we're almost done with the animation and it works as expected. However, let's make sure we follow the best practices while using the animate function. So let's stop the animation if the component unmounts, using the return function, controls, stop. Additionally, we can pass from and to numbers to our dependencies array to rerun the animation if this props changes. Also, you can run this animation only when the component is in viewport. We can do this with using view hook from firmware motion. So let's define inView, which equals to using view hook, and we need to pass our ref, and optionally, if you need to fire the animation only once, you can define once and set it to true. Let's pass inView to our dependencies array, and here, if the component is not in view, we just return. Hit save. But you might have noticed that the numbers are jumping horizontally during the animation. If I set the duration to, let's say, 10 seconds, you see they are moving in the horizontal direction. You can fix it by using a monospace font with CSS. With Tailwind, I can just define font mono here. Hit save, and it will definitely use a different font. Let's check it again. Hit refresh. And now, as you see, it stays in the center of the screen, without those slight moves. Well, everything works great, and our animation is super performant. But what if the user's device settings enable reduced motion? With the current implementation, we still render the counter animation as normal. So if I go to settings and open up visual effects in Windows 11 and disable animation effects, we still render our animation as normal. Make sure we respect the user's reduced motion setting. You can address it in two ways. The first way is that we can check for the prefers reduced motion media query inside the use effect hook. So you can type if window match media prefers reduced motion, and it have a matches property which can be true if enabled and false otherwise. And if this setting is enabled, we can just disable the animation by setting element text content to the final number, which is a 2 number, and return to disable the execution of the following animate code. Hit save, and let's remove the console log here, so we don't need it. Hit refresh, and as you see, we have disabled the animation because I have disabled it in my system settings. But if I enable it, hit refresh, our animation works again. Also, you can use an alternative approach by leveraging a conditional rendering here. You can create a custom React hook that returns whether the reduced motion is enabled and conditionally render the components. For example, you have created a React hook that returned the reduced motion as true. Let's comment it here. So if the reduced motion is true, you can return a regular span element and pass a final number. Otherwise, you return the animated counter. Hit refresh, and when the reduced motion is true, we just show the final number. If the hook will return false, we'll render the animation component. Feel free to choose your approach that fits your case better. And that's it. I think this is the most straightforward way to implement this animation. Now, go forth and create some stunning cool effects for your website. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me to stay motivated in the long run. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.